Hi guys. Alright, so you may notice that I am on my couch that's now a bed because I am in trouble. I may or may not have dropped the baby, but that's besides the point. Today is just going to be a recap on evolution. So if you're still a little confused about it, I'm going to give you some explanations really quick. Also, announcement, those of you who wish to bring your grades up, if you continue doing the work, I may put your grade up a little bit. I'm not gonna make you go from a D to an A, but I'll make you go from maybe a D to a C. If you're failing, you could probably pass still, but it all really depends on you guys. If you're able to do the work, submit the work while we're doing e-learning, then that shows me you're trying your best in learning. So you could have a chance at passing if you do the work. Those of you who just don't do the work, you're out of luck. So right now, in a little bit, we'll do the recap on evolution. He's angry. Have fun.
When you hold me in your arms so tight, you let me know everything's alright. I'm hooked on a feeling, I'm high on believing that you're in love with me. Lips as sweet as candy.
Alright, so the 4 factors of evolution are right here. The first one's going to be overpopulation. Overpopulation when there is too many species in that given area because there's too many of them that the area can't sustain because of the limited resources. There's not enough food, shelter, or whatever space you want to say that it's going to hold all those animals. So they're going to compete against each other. So overpopulation is the first one. It's when basically the population's over the carrying capacity, and carrying capacity is that limited amount of resources that they could sustain. Variation is the second one. Variation in your genetics. So genetic variation, that just means that every one of those all the organisms in the species of that species will be a little different. So it could be like this one's 5 centimeters taller, this one's a lighter shade of brown. It could be any variation or any kind of genetic difference, trait, physical trait. It could be any kind of trait that makes them a little bit different from everybody else. The other one's going to be inherited traits. Number 3 is inherited traits. That means you could pass down those traits. Basically just DNA. Anything that deals with your sex chromosomes, like the genes in your sex chromosomes, passing down. Not your somatic cells or your body cells, because those don't pass down to the next generation. The only ones that pass down from generation to generation are your sex cells, the sperm, and the egg. So anything that's heritable traits are going to be tied to those sex cells. And then the last one is going to be increased fitness. When we say increased fitness, we just means you're more likely to survive whatever circumstance you're in, environment you're in. You're able to survive better and then pass down those genes to repopulate. So you're able to live and survive, then basically to make more offspring. So those are the 4 factors of 4 factors of evolution. It was overpopulation, first one. Variation in genetic traits, or just variation, the second one. Third is inherited traits. Fourth is then increased fitness. So now we're going to be moving on to why they're important. So the first one is without overpopulation, there would be no competition for the limited resources. So if overpopulation never happened, so like they wouldn't have to compete. So everyone has enough food, everyone has enough shelter, everyone has enough water to live. So like there's no need for them to fight. If they don't fight, then that means like it's not going to be survival of the fittest, essentially. So we need overpopulation. It's going to be a trigger for this one for evolution. So I put trigger. It's going to be the trigger. Overpopulation is the trigger for evolution to start happening. And it's going to be actually one of the triggers. We'll go over another one, but right now that's the main one we're going to learn. And then 2 through 3, if you could notice that I did include like little connecting dots. That's because they're all connected together, because what I view them as is basically natural selection. So let's go to number 2. Without variation, species would all be the same. None would have an advantage because they would all share the same traits. So if we don't have any variations, I mean they're all the same. They're going to be the same height, all the same color, all the same speed. They all basically, when they need to compete for the resources because of overpopulation, they're all gonna be on the same like level. So like it's technically it's gonna be a fair game, but if everyone's at the same level, that means basically no one's gonna die because they're competing over resources. So if they're all the same, they're all gonna have to basically share, and then they're all gonna die. But without variation, we wouldn't have like unique traits that would be an advantage for them. And that's another reason why I have all three of them connected, because they intertwine with each other. Like they're all one and the same a little bit essentially, but for our case they're going to be different, but they all tie into each other. And we're going to see that because without inheritable traits, the offspring wouldn't inherit the traits from the parents that increase their fitness. So without variation, so that if we have variation, then that's fine. But if they can't inherit those variations, then what's the point? So if they don't have the variation that increase their fitness to make them survive more, then the offspring are just screwed essentially, because they don't have like the advantage that the parents did. Then without increased fitness, an organism wouldn't be able to outcompete others and die or not pass down their genes. So if there wasn't a variety of traits that increase their fitness, whether it could be like you're a little bit faster or your camouflage a little better, if they didn't have those increased fitnesses because of the variety of traits, then they'd just die. So because of increased fitness, an organism is better suited to survive and pass down their genes. And if genes weren't inheritable, like those traits weren't inheritable, then the next generation is going to be kind of screwed, because then they don't have that increased fitness that their parents did to make them survive better. So that's why I kind of pinned these all in the overlining thing as right here, 2, 3, and 4. These are going to be natural selection. That's what variation, inherited traits, increased fitness, that's what they all kind of are. To me, that's how I would categorize it. That's natural selection, but the trigger is going to be overpopulation. One of the triggers is going to be overpopulation, and the other one is going to be this. Evolution is in response due to changing environment. So the environment will be another trigger. Changing environment, species need to adapt. So when we say adapt, we don't mean like they're going to choose like, oh, I want like to grow gills underwater like I try to do. Just adapting means that certain traits are going to be favorable during certain conditions, and then they're going to appear more often, because since that trait increased their fitness, they're able to survive and then pass down their genes. So species need to adapt. So we see right now we have a population right here of a moose species. They have a variety of traits. We have a short-legged moose and 2 long-legged mooses. So right now the water level is okay for everybody, but the environment is then gonna change, and then boom, look what happens. The long-legged mooses are okay, but the short-legged moose is not. The long-legged mooses have an increased fitness because of the variety of genes that they have that made them have longer legs. So longer legs right now is going to increase their fitness. So because they are able they're more adapted to survive in this changing environment, they're going to live and pass on their genes. As you can see the next one, that's what they are, because look, we're missing the short-legged moose. The short-legged moose is not there anymore. He's dead, he's gone, so he doesn't get to pass on their genes. But the long-legged mooses do, because boom, look, they have a little baby now. They have a little baby long-legged moose. So because of their increased fitness originally, because we had a variety of traits right here, something happened, water level rise. So now, since they have those unique traits that made them better to adapt, they're more adapted to their changing environment. It's an increased fitness. They were able to then pass down those genes, those inherited genes, to their offspring. All right, so that was for 4 generations, let's just say, and then boom, their environment changes again, and we have now, let's just say it's another mutation or a recessive gene that happened again of the short-legged moose. So now we have the 3 long-legged mooses and 1 short-legged moose. So right now there's no water, the water evaporated, and now that there's grass on the floor. So because the short-legged moose is able to just bend his neck down and eat the grass, he's fine. But now the long-legged mooses, since their legs are so long, they cannot bend down to eat. So that is no longer a favorable trait to increase their fitness. Now the trait to increase fitness is short legs. So we could see, since he was able to survive, pass down their genes, another short-legged moose became in the population. The frequency of this inherited trait that increases their fitness is going to become more frequent. So right now there's 2, the next generation, look, there's 3, and the next one, boom, essentially they're all short-legged mooses because that short-leggedness, that short-leg trait increased their fitness, a better chance to survive in their changing environment. So that's how they were able to reproduce, make more offspring, and pass down that trait of increased fitness. So this whole example is just to show you guys that favorable traits do indeed change depending on their environment. So if an environment changes, a trait that was once favorable, like long legs, could be a disadvantage. Then it won't increase their fitness anymore. It's actually the negative. So a species is going to evolve or change and adapt to its environment depending on what gene is favorable. And it's something that they don't inherently, like the animals don't know, like, oh look, like this is a good thing. It's just that they're gonna live more, they're gonna survive better if they have those traits, and if they survive more and better, then they're just gonna pass down those traits. Then the population is gonna change too until it evolves into an entirely short-legged species or an entirely long-legged species. So evolution depends on, of course, overpopulation, which was our number 1 for the factor, but also evolution's in response to the changing environment. So that's your lesson. So there you guys go. That was a recap of basically evolution. Hopefully that clears up some things. Please do the assignment, and remember, if you do the assignments more consistently and habitually, there's a chance your grades may go up a little bit. Also, I'm going to put up right now, you can see, go on the video clip, there is a refresher video of how to do the genetic sequencing, or not genetic sequences, Punnett squares. So if you needed it and you do the test to bring your grade up, because we could do that one at least, there it is. You could do that retake or the original take of the Punnett squares. Watch the video for a refresher for both the honors and regulars. It's gonna be basically the same thing. Yeah, so there you go, and let's see if my wife's still mad at me. Kat, you still mad?
No, I don't even know.
Yeah, she is. Okay, bye.